Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm the host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. Welcome here today and welcome back if you've been a long-time listener of this podcast. And if you have, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for applying this information. Thank you for stepping up because it's clear now more than ever, even more than I started 8 years ago, that we need more fathers, husbands, business owners, leaders in the community, and men in general to step up, to lead themselves well, to lead others well, to admit when we mess up, to rectify and fix those situations to the degree that we can, and continue to improve our lives so we can in turn improve the lives of the people we have a responsibility for. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about giving you information and resources you need to do just that. If you are brand new to what we're doing here, we interview incredibly successful men, guys like Jocko Willink and David Goggins and Andy Frisella. We've also had men like Terry Crews and Ben Shapiro and Matthew McConaughey on the podcast. And I'm telling you, the lineup of men we have on this show is absolutely incredible. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm going to talk with you about this concept of self-betrayal and why it's so important that we acknowledge when we're betraying ourselves. We're also going to look at some of the symptoms to recognize and acknowledge if you are in the throes of betraying yourself. And then I'm going to talk with you about 5 helpful tips that you can use and employ in your life to make sure that you're not only not betraying yourself, but that you're honoring and upholding your commitments to your family, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers, your loved ones, and even complete strangers that I believe as men, we have a responsibility for. Before I get into that, just want to mention that my friends over at Montana Knife Company are doing incredible things. 100% made in America knives. I've got a big hunt next week, my favorite hunt of the year that I'm going on. And you can bet that I'll have my Montana knives with me because when and if, not even if, when I harvest my couple of deer for the hunt, I'm going to use those knives to clean and break down and process the deer so I can bring it home and my family and friends can enjoy that meat. And we use Montana Knife Company knives. Make sure you check them out. You can do that at montanaknifecompany.com. And if you end up picking something up, use the code Order of Man at discount, or excuse me, at checkout, and you'll get a discount when you do. Again, montanaknifecompany.com. Use the code Order of Man. All right, guys, let's talk about this concept of self-betrayal. So I heard that this morning with a meeting I was having for our Brotherhood, the Iron Council, and my good friend, and many of you know who he is, Kip Sorensen. He's my co-host on our Ask Me Anything podcast. We were talking about integrity and the importance of being in integrity. Mike Ellerby was talking about this topic and sharing with some of the team leaders in the Brotherhood. And he was talking about how to make sure that we are in integrity with other people. And Kip mentioned something interesting that I've heard before, but I never really grasped onto it. And it's this idea of self-betrayal. So a lot of the times we hear you have to be in integrity, you have to do what you say you're going to do. And that's all fine and great. But when Kip mentioned this concept of self-betrayal as a synonym for integrity, to me, it lands, it hits harder. Engaging in self-betrayal is something more powerful to me than just trying to be in integrity. And so I really explored and thought about that concept this morning. And I wanted to share some of those thoughts with you. Here's the reason this is so important. Because we talk a lot about betrayal to others, honoring commitments, upholding commitments, doing what we say we're going to do. And all of that is fine and wonderful. We should be doing that. But if we're betraying ourselves, at the end of the day, nothing else is going to matter. We're not going to feel great about ourselves. We're not going to accomplish tasks and objectives. We're certainly not going to lead others because there's a breakdown in trust. And we just won't live the lives that we're capable of living. There is so much mental and emotional weight that comes from not getting out of bed when your alarm goes off. There is so much mental and emotional burden when you have multiple projects laying around the house that you started but never finished. There is so much mental and emotional burden and weight when we tell people that we're going to do something and we don't complete it. Not only does the stuff not get done, but it's the way we feel about it. And, we hear a lot, especially in the men's space, about we shouldn't be concerned with how we feel and emotions aren't great indicators. I think they are. I think our emotions are helpful. We don't want to act out solely on our emotion, but I think it's important that we acknowledge what we're experiencing. And if you're feeling anxiety and depression and stress, good indicator that something's off. And so it's crucial that we figure out what it is. And I would suggest to you that maybe it's some element of self-betrayal. We've got to find a way not to betray ourselves before we start worrying about how to honor our commitments and be in integrity with other people. Let's talk about some of these symptoms. Number one, if you are never completing projects that you've started, then there might be some self-betrayal happening here. Now, look, I know people are going to say, well, I got busy and I had other projects and I had my priorities changed. And I get all that. I understand that. But that's actually a symptom too. If you continue to rationalize and justify and excuse away your underperformance or you not honoring your commitment, that's an act of self-betrayal. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how to overcome this in my helpful hint segment. But for now, that's the most important thing you need to realize is that if there's things laying around the house or files that need to be put away or projects at work that need to be completed and you're not completing those things, you're betraying yourself. You're moving on to the next bright and shiny object. Maybe you're not managing your schedule the way that you should. Maybe you're overcommitted and you need to not do that so that you can actually complete the projects you say. Maybe you don't have the right people in place. Maybe they don't trust you to do the job that you want them to do. There's so much going on here when you don't have when you don't have the projects around the house and your office and your space completed. Number two is if you recognize and acknowledge a lack of trust from other people, they might be recognizing some self-betrayal or integrity issues in you before you're able to recognize it yourself. We have a tremendous ability to deceive ourselves, to justify and rationalize and excuse away our own behavior. If other people don't trust you, it's likely because they know you're not a man who follows through on his word. Guys, we can rebuild this. Sometimes it gets damaged. Sometimes it needs to be repaired, but we can rebuild it only if you acknowledge it and you see that some people don't trust you. Now, our natural reaction might be, well, I don't need all these people in my life and I don't give a F what anybody else thinks about how I show up. I don't really believe that. I don't really buy into that. What I buy into is that you actually do care about what other people think of you, especially those guys who beat on their chest and say, I don't. If you truly were indifferent to the way other people felt about you, you wouldn't feel the need to proclaim all over social media how you don't care what other people think of you. The fact that you're saying that you don't care what other people think is an indicator that you do care what other people think. And that's not bad, by the way. Now, we ought to exercise discernment because we want to only consider those who have our best interest at heart and those who are credible in giving us advice. Those are people I care about. I care about what my kids think of me. I care about what you guys think. I care about the guys who are part of our Iron Council Brotherhood or who come to our events or who wear our merchandise. I care certainly about what they think, and that helps me perform in a better way. So I want to develop and build trust with other people. I want other people to think highly of me because if they do, I can have more influence and hopefully lead them to a better place. Isn't that what you want for your kids? Isn't that what you want for your spouse? Isn't that what you want for your employees? Even if they don't stick around with you forever, don't you want them to be in a better place? That requires trust. And trust is the bedrock for a relationship, is built upon whether or not you can honor and keep your word. And if you can't, then you're going to start to notice that there's not a lot of people around you that trust you. They're not asking you for help. They're not asking you for feedback. They don't put much weight and stock into what you say because they know it's all a line. Number three, you're having feelings of inferiority, anxiety, and depression. Now, I'm not a medical professional, so let me throw that out there. But I would suggest to you, at least on an anecdotal level, maybe there's some data or science to support this. You guys can let me know if there is. I'm curious. But I'd be willing to bet that the majority of anxiety, depression, mental health disorder, things like this, that we see in men is a result of self-betrayal. We have this vision or this version of ourselves that we want to be, and it's made up in our mind. I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. I want to be strong. I want to be a great communicator. I want to run a successful business. I want to have a happy marriage. I want to be a great father. All these things that we have a desire to do and be as a goal, as a vision. And then we look at our own lives and you want to be a great father, but you're not real present because you're so engaged at work. Or you want to start a business, but you're handcuffed with your current employment and you're not daring to go out and start your own thing. Or you want to lose weight and run a marathon or get in shape, and yet you stop at Del Taco or Burger King every day to get food on the way home. So you have this vision of who you want to be, and then you have the current reality of who you are. And the greater that divide, I call this the integrity gap. The greater the divide between who you want to be and who you currently are, that's going to create inferiority, anxiety, depression, confidence issues. So if you're experiencing any or all of those things, I would suggest to you that you take a good long look at your day, at your activities, at your words, and whether or not they're aligning and in alignment with your actions, and start to rectify that. If, for example, you tell yourself, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. this morning and I'm going to go run, you need to get up at 6 a.m. and go run. If you tell your wife that you're going to go do a project around the house this weekend, you better get up early, go do your run, come back, clean up, whatever you need to do, get to the hardware store, now start getting after that project. If you tell your kids that you're going to take them to play baseball or the trampoline park this afternoon, you better take them to the trampoline park this afternoon. If you tell yourself you're going to eat clean and you're not going to eat any processed sugars, the minute you start eating processed sugars, you're going to think less of yourself, not necessarily because of the sugar, although that could have something to do with it, but because you lied to yourself. You betrayed yourself. It's treachery. It's treasonous. You said you were going to do something, you did something else, and so you betrayed yourself. It's crucial. And it's not just crucial because you committed to other people. It's crucial because of how you're going to feel about yourself. And then the last symptom that I wrote down here is that there's a lack of fulfillment, satisfaction, and pride in your life. Of course, right? You can't be proud of getting out of bed late. You can't be proud of not going to the gym and not going for a run. You can't be proud of eating all the Burger King that you can possibly handle. You can't be proud of sitting your ass on the couch this entire weekend, not doing any projects around the house, not honoring your word, not taking your kids to the baseball field or the trampoline park. Like, you can't feel pride in those things. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. You feel guilt and shame because you know that you should be doing more and you've committed to doing more, and yet you're not. This is how we betray ourselves, and this is how it feels to betray yourself. Let's talk about some of the tips, because I think all of this is common sense, maybe. I think we know inherently that we can't be doing these things. And yet so many of us, myself included at times, find it difficult to follow through on our commitments to ourselves and other people. So what can we do? Well, number one is you have to know what you want and what you don't want. If we're talking about fitness, for example, do you want to build muscle? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to be a runner? Do you want to be a power lifter? Do you want to train specifically for martial arts? Do you want to do functional fitness? Like, what exactly do you want? And what don't you want? If you want to build muscle, for example, and become a power lifter, then doing a bunch of running probably isn't going to help you with that. But going to the gym, lifting heavy, bench press, deadlifts, squats, pull-ups, dips, etc., are going to help you achieve your objective. Now, it's really, really important that you know what you want and what you don't, because now every decision and every experience and every encounter and every quote unquote opportunity can be measured against your vision and your objectives, and you can decide whether or not this is something I want to do. I got a text from a friend the other day, and they've got some coaching programs that they offer. And he said, hey, would you be interested in promoting our coaching services? And if you do, we'll compensate you X amount of dollars for everybody who comes over. Normally, I would have said yes to that because it's enticing, right? There's the monetary gain from it, and there's the fact that I want to help my friends and businesses. But in this case, I knew what I wanted. I know what projects I'm working on. I know what I'm currently committed to, and I know I'm at capacity with regards to the business. And I can't and won't, not even that I can't, I won't invest any other time detracting from my current priorities and commitments. So I politely declined the offer. And I felt great about it. I felt great because had I accepted the offer, there would have been calls and emails, and then I would have felt obligated to promote and all these other things that I'm just not interested in right now, based on where I am with the business. So It's important that you know what you want and what you don't, so you can say yes to the right opportunities and you can say no to the wrong ones. Number two, setting healthy boundaries. Guys, so many of us let people walk all over us. The way they treat us, the demands they make of our time and attention, the expectation they have of us, the way that they want us to show up. And it's not always devious. Like, I don't think most people are out to take advantage of us. There are some, sure. But I don't think most people are out to take advantage of us. I don't think most people are out to go against our own desires or best wishes. It's just that they have their own priorities. You know, for example, if I'm in an office space and my door is open and my employees think that they can just come in and talk to me at any point throughout the day, it's not that they're trying to keep me from doing my work. It might feel like that, but they're not. They're just being selfish. And I'm not even saying that negatively. They have their own projects and priorities, and they might need you to sign off on something so they can get what they need to get done, which I can appreciate. But if I don't have boundaries set as far as how often I'm available or when I'm available or how I will be approached, then people are going to walk all over that. Again, not out of any ill intent, but just because it's their priority. And I've heard it put great one time. Somebody said, don't make other people's priorities your problem. Don't make other people's priorities your problem. Now, let me say this, the disclaimer here for the people who are going to nitpick over that phrase. Okay, I'm not saying that your priorities shouldn't be your problem. So some people will conflate the two. When I say don't make other people's priorities your problem, your employees' problems, if they're your employees, are also your problems. So understand what I'm saying here. Exercise some discernment. I'm not saying that if you have obligations to help people with certain things that you don't help them. I'm saying your other people's problems are not necessarily a priority for you. Okay. So setting healthy boundaries, communicating what those boundaries are, letting people know how you will be talked to, when you're available, what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate, never acting out of emotion, but just simply stating what is. And then reminding people of those boundaries when they start to get real close to stepping over the line. Uphold those boundaries, communicate, engage, execute the boundaries, and then uphold them. Number three, this one's huge. Don't overcommit. I just gave you an example of that. I could have overcommitted by entering into that partnership relationship that I told you about via text. If I would have done that, I would have been stressed out, right? That's one of the symptoms. I would have been stressed out because I would have felt obligated because I put myself in that spot of obligation to market and to promote and to have phone calls and to do all the things. And I'm not interested in that right now. So I could either say no now, or I can just drop the ball later. And then I undermined my trust with other people. Again, that's another symptom. So I knew where this was going. And most of us, I think, do know when we're doing it. And yet we do it anyways. Oh, I can find time. I can squeeze it in. Yeah, I want to be helpful. I get all of that. I understand all of that. But if it's coming at the expense of other things, other priorities, then you know it's a problem. And that's how you know. People will say, well, how do I know? I can take on more. Sure, we could all take on more. We could all squeeze another 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour out of our day to do something else. But should you be doing that? And at what cost does it come? Again, if it's coming at the expense of other projects, tasks, hobbies, pursuits, priorities, then it's got to go. And by the way, you can do that with your current schedule now. If there's certain commitments that you've made now, finish those commitments to the best of your ability. If the situation or circumstances have changed, communicate that with whoever needs to be communicated with and start clearing up your schedule so you can focus on what's important and add that new sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and pride back into your life. Number 4, learn to say no with tact. Now, I threw that last little element in there with tact because saying no to somebody, establishing boundaries, and then saying no is not a permission slip to be a dick. And I don't know where this idea came from. I really don't. And we see it on social media all the time. And again, that's when people say 0F's mentality, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And if they don't like me, that's their problem. It's such an arrogant way to live. It's really arrogant. It's egotistical. And I think it'll come back to bite you in the butt. Again, I do care what other people think. And even if I don't, I'm still not going to be a jerk to somebody. Because look, the last thing you want to do is burn bridges. So if somebody presents an opportunity to you and it's not a good fit for you, if you say no and you're a jerk about it, they're never going to present anything else to you that could actually be advantageous. A great example of that is every once in a while, I'll have publishers who will reach out to me because they'd like me to interview one of their authors. And sometimes it's a fit and other times it isn't. So I have to say no to publishers who could potentially introduce me to individuals that I do want to have on the podcast, but I have to do it with class and tact, because if I don't, then I'm just burning the bridge altogether and they're never going to come to me and present the opportunity. So an example of doing that would be, hey, Susan, thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate you keeping me in mind. We're currently booked with podcast guests, and this particular guest is a subject that we recently covered, so we're not going to revisit that one for a while. If you do have other authors who fit X, Y, and Z, we would be very interested in interviewing those individuals. You're saying no, but you're doing it with tact. You're leaving the door open. You're even asking her to present new ideas to her. You're giving her an opportunity to do her job even better by explaining what it is you're after. So we don't need to fall into this false dichotomy of I can either say no and be a complete asshole or say yes and then build trust. No, you can say no and still develop trust if you do it correctly. And then the last thing I wrote down here, guys, for helpful tips is that when you go into something, that you go all in or just don't go at all. And not going at all is okay. All too often, I hear from guys who think that they have to do everything just like me or everything just like one of my guests, and they don't enjoy it or they don't like it or they don't have time for it. And they think, oh man, I'm such a loser. I'm such a failure because I didn't do this thing. No, you're not. It just means it doesn't fit for you. It's not a priority. It's not an interest. It's not something that you really care about. And that's okay. It's okay to say no. It's okay not to be interested in martial arts, for example. It's okay to not, be a hunter like a lot of the guys I have on the pod. It's okay that you didn't join the military. Now, some guys will say, no, you need to do all those things. I think, yeah, probably get some experience with all of those things. But if it's not your thing, it's okay. It's okay. Because I want you to find something or develop and create and unpack something that you can go all in on. As Ron Swanson would say, never half-ass two things, always whole-ass one thing. And that goes back to knowing what you want and what you don't, learning to say no, setting healthy boundaries, not overcommitting, and then giving yourself the opportunity from a time and resources perspective to go all in on the things that really matter. I hope this serves you guys. There's so much self-betrayal in my own life and in the lives of the men that I work with. And I know that when I get up this morning, I got up and I went for a run because I said I was going to do that. Took a little longer than I wanted to. The run, not only the run, but me getting the motivation to go do it. But I finally got ready, got out of the house, and went on my run. And I feel better. It's a little bit more pride than I had before because I honored the commitment to myself and I did not engage in this treachery of self-betrayal. All right, guys. I hope that serves you. Let me know if it does. Let me know if there's also other topics that you want me to address. Happy to address as many topics and information and anything that I can. Again, our mission is to help you become the best man that you can possibly be. So let me know what you're interested in and I'll cover it, and or I'll bring a guest on who can cover it specifically. All right, guys, please just take a screenshot, post this up on socials, let people know what you're listening to. Send me a message. Let me know what you appreciate. Let me know what you're getting, what value you're getting from this. And then check out Montana Knife Company. Use the code ORDEROFMAN at checkout for the discount, and let's keep getting after it. All right, guys, let's go out there, take action, no self-betrayal, and become the men we are meant to be.